Hello? Is this working? I don't know if this is working or not. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, I think this is working. Hey everyone, at a different location today. There's no Porter. We're doing things a little bit different. This is from my home here instead of Porter's place. Can you guys hear me and everything? I'm doing this off my phone this week. We couldn't get a laptop. That was Porter's laptop that we usually use, and he's not here this week. So, can everybody hear me? If you guys want to comment, if you can hear me, please comment. Hey, guys. Okay, great. Okay, well, I'll give a couple minutes for this to reach anyone who's gonna want to see it, but I can say that, well, damn. uh, damn, that was a lot of stuff happening. And it kind of left me a little speechless, guys. I'm not sure what I'm going to be talking about here, but I took notes this time so I could go, not every scene by scene, but at least talk about the big parts that happened in this episode. We could see this one, right? This was lit by dragonfire instead of being at night and us not being able to see a lot of stuff that was going on. I want to hear what you guys think here, so go ahead and comment about some of your initial reactions to the episode, and we'll get into it. But man, this was a rough one to watch. In terms of technical filmmaking and just how everything looked, and even some of the stories and stuff. I mean, a lot of people disagree with where this season has taken a lot of the characters and the stories have how they're wrapping up and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, this episode isolated was extremely well done. This is better than a lot of films who attempt this kind of thing. So I want to hear what you guys think of this in the comments if you're going to be commenting. I'm not sure. Again, apologies. No Porter this week. Today's Mother's Day. So I had to be around family and everything, hang out with my mom. Hope you guys got to have that opportunity as well. So I didn't get a chance to go over to Porter's today, but he will be back next week. He'll be back next week for the finale. We're gonna review that in a regular format. Just this week we couldn't do it. I hope you guys are okay with what we're doing now. Seeing some comments here. That was amazing, but man, after seeing Endgame, this did not make me feel any better. Yeah, this was a sad end to a lot of the characters, but we kind of expected that going into it. Visually, the episode was very good, but this was the payoff that the show didn't earn this season. Okay, that's one opinion there. This is like Saving Private Ryan in medieval times. Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Man, this was a rough one to see play out. And yeah, I guess you could definitely make that comparison to Saving Private Ryan because we have Arya sort of as that central character we're seeing her perspective on the burning of King's Landing and all the things that are happening and everyone who's dying and everyone who's bursting into flame right in front of her and they're still alive and falling down and all that stuff. And yeah, we got to see all that from her perspective, and it was extremely difficult to watch in terms of just caring for the characters and everything. And it was brutal stuff, very brutal stuff. Credit to the production team for the amount of detail that they put into this episode because it looked amazing. It really pulled off what they were trying to do. So I'll get into the breakdown now. We've been on for a couple minutes here, so we can start talking about the actual episode. So we started off here with Varys sort of running a note. He's trying to get the word out that the true heir to the Iron Throne is actually Jon Snow. That doesn't work out too well for him. Jon and Varys have a final scene where Jon reiterates once again he's loyal to a fault that Daenerys is his queen no matter what, and he doesn't want the throne. He doesn't want anything that Varys is trying to convince him to take, and he kind of just walks away from him. After that, we get a scene with Tyrion and Dany, and they kind of talk about what's been going on and everything. And it was, that was kind of one of the last pieces of humanity that we saw from Dany in this episode. Or I shouldn't say that because her emotional reactions are just that, emotional human reactions to everything that happened later. But this is her at her wit's end. I mean, she's got huge bags under her eyes. Missandei died the last episode. Jorah died the episode before that. A lot of her trusted advisors are all gone, and Tyrion is not doing a great job, especially with Varys sort of turning on her, and he has to tell her that Varys turned on her indeed. She thinks it was Jon, and through her logic, that was it. Jon actually did kind of betray her because he told Sansa, who told Tyrion, who told Varys, and Varys is trying to spread the word and all that stuff. So rough, rough scene there. Really well acted, really well done. I thought there's a lot of really good scenes in this episode. Not just the brutal action stuff, but a lot of one-on-one conversations. A lot of the quiet scenes I thought succeeded this episode. I thought a lot of those character moments were really, really well done. The following scene, Varys is trying to write another note, and he hears someone coming, burns that crap, and he gets brought out in front of they're at Dragonstone, of course. Gets brought out to in front of the sea, and he's burned. And it's a very somber Dracarys from Daenerys there. This is her, again, at her wit's end, but this is her just kind of giving up and not caring, and she's totally heartbroken about everything that's happened to her these last couple episodes, and she just burns Varys alive right there, and she did what she said she was going to do, all the way back when Varys sort of introduced himself to her and became one of her best advisors, or one of her closest advisors. So she followed through with that, that's for sure. And Varys, through all his, if you want to call him faults, he said he served the realm and all that stuff. He had people's best interests at heart, and he was right about Dany. Dany, let her emotions take hold of everything and burned the entire city of King's Landing to the ground. To the ground. It's all gone. So Varys was right. And, he said in that moment that he hoped that he was wrong, but he wasn't. He was right. Tyrion was on the wrong side of that conversation and that decision. So, man, rough stuff there. After that, we get a Jon and Dany scene. This is another really great scene at Dragonstone where Jon is talking to Dany, and Dany's, going back and forth with him about what's been happening. And Dany, tries to go in for the move on her nephew. And Jon, you could tell that he wants to be romantically involved with her. He wants things to be the way that it was before he found out who he really is, but he just can't do it. And this is another thing that just makes Dany fall off the deep end again in terms of her psyche and where she's at emotionally in this episode. Tyrion has a scene with her in the throne room at Dragonstone where he really tries to convince her if he can get Cersei to ring the bell and raise the gates and all that stuff, that she'll back off. She won't kill all these innocent people, which is the main concern for Tyrion and was the main concern for Varys and Jon too as well, I think. But he's loyal to her to a fault, like I said earlier. So he believes in her more than I think even Tyrion does at this point. So, by the way, all those I saw a ton of theories out there like, are they going to reveal that Tyrion's a secret Targaryen in this episode? That is a big theory online. I don't know if you guys have checked any of that stuff out, but the theory is that Tyrion is also the son of the Mad King. And he, like the Mad King, raped Joanna Lannister, I think that's her name, that would be Tywin's wife, and that produced Tyrion. So they thought that maybe that he would bring in some more dragons or something like that. Didn't go that way. I can say that at least this episode was unpredictable from that sense, where I don't think a lot of people thought that this was just going to happen outright. So at least on that end of things, the episode was unpredictable, and in kind of a good way. I'll get into my opinions on that towards the end of this breakdown here. But so Dany actually agrees to not storm the whole castle and all that stuff and kill everything and everyone if Cersei lets the gates down and rings the bell. But and even Grey Worm is there, and he kind of he's lost it all too. I mean, he's full of anger at this point, and you could tell maybe she's not going to quite do that, but she tells Tyrion she is. And that at least gives Tyrion some kind of hope. Tyrion also releases Jaime, a nice last scene with those two. They've had a great relationship throughout the entire series, and that was a nice last moment. Tyrion got to say everything that he wanted to say to Jaime about that he was the only one who really treated him as a human being and not as a monster. And he loves him for that, and he releases him to try and convince Cersei. He wants to save Cersei, and for all her faults, she is still his sister. And Tyrion wants to save his sister and his unborn nephew or niece, which apparently was real this entire time, as we found out. So he releases Jaime to try and go in and convince Cersei to raise the gates and all that stuff. After that, King's Landing, we see, is just a total mess. It's absolute pandemonium, people trying to get in and out of the city, and it is just nuts. They did a really good job of just inducing panic in the viewer, especially at least in me, seeing like all these people in enclosed space and trying to get in somewhere, and they ended up that there's no safe place in King's Landing or outside King's Landing at this point. So ultimately that really didn't matter, but those everything leading up to the dragon attack was very claustrophobic and panicky, and it really made me feel that sense of kind of dread that something was coming, and also just this, like I said, this extreme thought process of panic. And what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Everyone's running around. And also Jimmy trying to get in to see Cersei. That doesn't work. Also, we see Arya and the Hound trying to get in to kill Cersei. And also the Hound, of course, to go up against the Mountain and everything, which we got later. But sort of the espionage part of this episode was interesting, and I thought well done as well, and just so ominous. This whole episode was just so somber. Man, it was very difficult to watch just because you just felt something really bad was going to happen before it happened, and then while it was happening, it was just relentlessly hitting you in the face all over the place with all these blows to all these characters that we've been following, and even characters that we followed just for this episode, and just seeing all these innocent people being burned alive and everything, and it was tough to watch, and that's what I could say about that. Next up after that stuff, Drogon. So I think a lot of things that people were complaining about in these last few episodes with the dragons, that they weren't used to their full potential, and they weren't. They definitely weren't. I mean, seeing Rhaegal just totally blindsided by the scorpion lance that killed him in the or her. I'm not sure what the sex of the dragons are. In the last episode, was kind of just like, it was a shocker at first, and then the more I think about it, it's like, wait, she didn't see them? She's literally flying hundreds of feet above, and she couldn't see Euron's fleet. Okay. Kind of a weird way to go about it, but we've had to take some logical leaps in this season to get where they wanted us to go, and even more so than the obvious things like the dragons exist in this world, and all the magical, fantastical elements that the series has presented so far. We've had to take those logical leaps even further with this season, and hasn't always been a good thing. But this time, Drogon just burned the crap out of everything. Going in there, now this is before the sack of King's Landing and everything, where she's just burning the outside, taking care of the Lannister armies, taking care of all the Scorpions, basically eliminating every single threat very quickly to Drogon. And that's done very fast, which honestly probably should have been done more at the Battle of Winterfell. I don't know. I mean, that's a different situation and everything, but still, that was like, oh boy, it was tough to just see all that play out on screen, and how easily Drogon destroyed everyone and everything in his path. So Cersei's kind of in denial at this point, where it's like, oh, this person will take care of the dragon, don't worry. Or Euron's fleet will take care of the dragon, don't worry. All these people that are fighting for her, who don't really like her, but are loyal to her because she's the queen. She thinks that they're going to protect her, and no one can protect her at this point. And the very slow descent for her in this episode was interesting to watch, for sure. And it was a great job by Lena Headey to go through that and everything. And she did a really good job of just being so confident, then going into denial, and then being total panic mode and all that. She did a great job in this episode. A lot of the acting was done just perfectly in this. So Cersei actually does surrender. Qyburn's like, there's nothing left, bro. We got to get out of here. And the Mountain's still by her side, too. And eventually we see the bells ring and everything. Jon and all his forces with Grey Worm and the Unsullied army and everything, they're all just waiting. Dany's perched up on some kind of building, waiting to go in, or waiting for the bell to ring or whatever. And it rings, and they're all just like, okay, everything's going to be fine. And then Dany just like lets her emotions take hold of her. But even further past that, I mean, we're talking the Mad Queen levels of insanity here. She just goes off and starts burning everything. I don't have a lot of notes in between this and another big event, because it's just fire all around for, man, it felt like a half hour or something. This episode was like an hour, 20 something minutes, I think. So this had a lot of room to breathe in terms of the individual scenes, and just letting these intense death scenes with Drogon's fire burning the entire city just, really take time with, sort of explaining everything that's going on in terms of the narrative, but also just showing all of the intense sequences that happen with these characters that are we don't know, like I said earlier, who are just getting burned alive, and just it's scrambling my brain just to think about it because it was just a lot to take in, and it's a lot to react to right away. You know, I don't have a lot of time to gather my thoughts before the live streams and stuff, so I'm still reeling from all this stuff, as I'm sure you guys are. I'll look at your comments as soon as I'm done with the breakdown. I'm seeing that there's a lot of stuff coming up, so I'll get to that stuff in a couple minutes. Next big thing we have here, Jamie kills Euron in a battle. I kind of thought for a second Jamie was going to die right there. I was going to be like, seriously? After all that? Seriously? He dies right there? Come on, man. But it didn't. It didn't go with that. Euron, it wasn't that interesting of a character, I don't think, throughout this series. I know that he's more interesting in the books and a lot of the qualities that he has in there. He's a lot more involved in magic and excuse me, stuff like that. And he's just kind of a crazy pirate in this series here. And not that the actor does a bad job or anything, just his characterization is, I don't know, just kind of strange and wacky, and I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of Euron throughout the series, but he ends up like stabbing Jamie like 5 times or something. Jamie's still alive and kills him. We don't actually see Euron take his last breath. He says, "Oh, I killed Jamie Lannister," so he dies thinking he killed Jamie, but ultimately that's not what happened. I'm sure that would have eventually been what transpired with Jamie, but that's not exactly how his death went down, as we saw a little bit later. The Hound and Arya stuff here was fantastic. We got a goodbye here. Arya's filled with piss and vinegar and wants to kill Cersei still with everything burning around her. They're in the Red Keep at this point, and Hound just like breaks it down to her in a very relatable way where it's like, you want to be like me? You still have time left, basically. She's still a very young woman, and she calls him Sandor, which just got me, guys. When she called out Sandor, I was just like, oh, that really got to me there. Great job by Maisie Williams there. Great job. I don't know the guy who plays the Hound. I forgot his name. But man, great one-on-one scene there. Again, this episode's filled with a really well-balanced diet, if you will, of these very quiet character moments and one-on-one scenes, and resolutions for a lot of these characters, you know, good, bad, or otherwise, and these intense battle. You can't even call them. There's some battle sequences, but it's just death from above, basically. She's the Ivan Drago of Westeros, basically. I don't know if any of you guys got that Rocky IV reference, but I hope you did. So she's kind of left behind to try to just get out of the city, and we finally get the Clegane Bowl actually finally happens, and I was so excited to finally see this. I think a lot of people were. We finally see the last battle between the Mountain and the Hound. These two brothers finally clash in the Red Keep, or outside the Red Keep. You know, they're outside the castle spokes and or whatever we call it, towers. You know, going down the steps and everything. That was beautiful in terms of how it was shot. It was really well done with just fire in the background, destruction everywhere. The Mountain cannot listen to Qyburn anymore at this point. His hate takes over for his brother, and he just kills Qyburn right away by throwing him against a bunch of rocks. Cersei just like, okay, dude, and just like walks out. And then it's just Clegane Bowl one-on-one. We cross-cut between this and Arya stuff and other things that are happening, other perspectives like Jon and all that. And this was really well done in terms of the fight. I mean, freaking the Hound stabs right through the Mountain's chest area, and he pulls the sword right out of him, and they keep fighting. We get a call back to the eye squeeze that happened with Oberyn a couple seasons ago, but the Hound is a little bit tougher and can still barely see, and he's just getting his ass kicked. But eventually, the Hound stabs him in the eye, the Mountain that is, and like tackles him through the remaining brick wall, and they fall, you know, hundreds of feet into fire. Of course, it's into fire. A poetic end for the Hound. Man, it was rough to watch because a lot of people like the Hound, but there's no way he was getting like a happy ending. I don't think anyone was expecting a happy ending for the Hound when he was going up against the Mountain there, and they both died together. Man, he looked gnarly, didn't he? The Mountain looked completely gnarly, just being all types of decay on his face. Really well done by the makeup team, and he was unsettling to look at for sure. And I love his line when the Hound says, "Yeah, I see you. You've always been like this." Basically, you've always been like that on the inside, being an ugly, disgusting human being, and now he is that on the outside. So at least the Hound got to see him look like that, and he ended up being uglier than the Hound. So That ended a way that I think a lot of people expected, but in a way that where predictability was a good thing, I think. After that, Jamie does make it to Cersei. They get to the dungeons underneath, and Tyrion, of course, earlier I didn't mention this, set up a ride for Jamie and Cersei to escape and take care of the kid and everything, go to Pentos or somewhere in Essos. And they get down there, but the bricks have blocked the exit, and Jamie just takes Cersei close, and they go out of this world the same way they came in, like a lot of people expected. Everything caves in there, and they die in those dungeons right there. So, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people wanted to see something different for an end for Jamie, but like I said earlier, this was not unexpected for that character. This wasn't unexpected for Cersei either. I feel like Cersei maybe could have gotten some more uh, stuff to do, maybe some kind of showdown with Danny, or at least a one-on-one conversation. So I thought she was. I hesitate to say she was done a disservice, but she kind of was. I mean, we didn't get a lot from her this season, and that kind of sucks. I would have liked to have seen more of her perspective on things a little bit. But you can only do so much when you have these two gigantic battles to go through, and you have to wrap up all these seasons of a crazy epic show, and you only have 6 episodes to do it in. So something had to get cut. I think Cersei's arc towards the end here was one of those big things that they had to trim going into this final season. Um, and the last thing I'll just talk about here is just Arya's POV, like that Saving Private Ryan stuff we mentioned earlier. Insanity all around her for the entire time. It was tough to watch, seeing her follow these different characters and try to take care of this, especially this mother and daughter who she was really trying to save because she saw them earlier. That didn't work out. They get burned alive. And at the end of all this, when Dany finally stops, the entire city is ash. Now, this reminds me of the whatever you want to call it, premonition that happened in season 2, where the entire throne room in Westeros with the Iron Throne and everything, it looks like snow is falling. And Dany turns away from the throne and all that. But I think that was meant to be ash because we see ash falling down. It looks like snow when Arya is in that last scene. And we see this one white horse covered in blood, but still somehow untouched in this sea of just destruction and mayhem and burnt bodies and ash everywhere. There's just this one horse, and she takes the horse and rides off. If I didn't know better, I don't know. I think that maybe she is going to be going after Dany. I think that's pretty obvious here. Maybe she'll kill Dany, and then maybe she'll have to kill Jon after this. I think that maybe Arya is going to be killing both of them. I think that's a real possibility. At least Dany. I think she's going to be the one to take out Dany. I don't think it's going to be Jon. I don't think he could bring himself to do it. And whether Jon is left with the Iron Throne having to rule, or like something else happens with Arya, I can't see her sitting on the Iron Throne, or even if there is an Iron Throne left, if she's gonna rule or whatever. Arya's not gonna rule at the end of the show. I don't think that's her place. If she does, I mean, it'd be an interesting twist ending that not a lot of people saw coming. But I don't know. I definitely think after this episode, Jon is gonna be resigning to the fact that he failed, and from a morality standpoint, he even saves someone from being raped by one of his own men at that point and kills him. That he's failed on that end. He's backed the wrong person, and he has to live with that failure, and he's going to have to. I think he's going to feel responsible for what happened here, and he's not going to be able to live with it. So if he does die by Arya's hand, we'll see. It's a possibility. I'm seeing she better not kill Jon. Guys, this is a real possibility. I think this is a real possibility. Not sure it's going to happen, but I don't know if Jon's going to make it out of this last season or this last episode alive. I want him to. Jon's my favorite character, but man, the look on his face throughout this whole episode told the story without him having to say many lines at all. So, that was the end of the episode there, and it was a rough one to get through. But was this the best episode this season? Probably. I think this one, or the second episode where we get sort of the calm before the storm of the Battle of Winterfell, I really liked that episode. The third episode, the Long Night, was like, I liked a lot when I first saw it, and like I said last week, the more I thought about it, I was like, I don't know about this or that, but I still liked the episode overall. I didn't like last week's episode very much. I wasn't a big fan of it. This one really delivered on a lot of things, and now we get the falling action to this climax next week, and how we're going to wrap things up, I don't know. Is this where George R. R. Martin is going with Dany? I don't know, because it feels maybe if we had more time with her in between seeing Missandei die and Jorah die and her closer friends and all that stuff, leading to this, it would have felt more appropriate. But after all this time, after almost 8 full seasons of her arc, for it to end like this, it's bittersweet. Like George R. R. Martin has always said, how he's going to end this series, but like I don't know if it necessarily works that well story wise. I don't know. It kind of does. I got to think about it more. Like I said, these are just initial reactions. So the more I think about it, maybe I'll swing one way or the other. But right now, it's like, I don't know if this was the right way to go with that. Maybe it was, though. Maybe it was. I got to think more about it. All right, I'm going to get into some of your guys' comments here. We got about 35 people watching right now. So excuse me while I read through some of this stuff. Yeah, Saving Private Ryan, blah, blah. Apparently, stations. That's left episode. Just reading through some of this stuff right now. Van 8 Ryan says, I'm just really nothing more with Arya. Feels like they quit with her right after giving her one of the show's best moments. I think that Arya is going to have maybe the last big moment of the show, so don't give up on her quite yet. Predict Arya killing you-know-who at the end. Yeah, I think she's going to go after Dany and also possibly go after Jon. Maybe Sansa sits on the throne at the end. Maybe Arya kills and Sansa kind of just shows up and takes over. I don't know. I think that's a possibility. Jon and Arya are about to lose it on Dany. I don't know what Jon's going to do. I don't know what he's going to do. I think that he's going to stand up for what he believes is right, but I'm not sure how he's going to handle this kind of betrayal of character. Who's my favorite for this season? Jon's always been my favorite character, but for this season, I don't know. Probably Arya, I guess, for this season. I got to think about that more. Arya's at least towards the top of the list. Honestly, after this last episode, the Hound as well was really well done, and I liked seeing him finally get his end the way he wanted to go out, basically fighting his brother. Hi everybody. Yes, people saying hello. Van 8 Ryan also says, really getting aggravated. They're trying to shove the whole Dany becoming Cersei arc this season, wants to go with. So yeah, same. Everything past Long Night, very underwhelming. I don't know if this is, I wouldn't use underwhelming to describe this because this was so well done and well shot and just very, a very interesting twist on things. I got to think, like I said, I got to think more if it really works with the whole story that they've been telling for so long and this many years. But I wouldn't call it quite underwhelming. But yeah, after the Long Night stuff, I kind of wish that was the last thing that we saw, but you know, they wanted to do this turn with Dany, so I mean, that kind of fits their narrative this season at least. Done cleansed, and now finally Sunday coming soon. Yes, the final episode. By the way, if you guys are just joining us or joined me after I started here, Porter will be back next week. We'll be with our regular setup with the laptop and everything, and he'll be back to review the final episode of Game of Thrones with me next week live here on YouTube. I hope you guys join me for that. It's going to be a long conversation, I'm sure, because we're not just going to be talking about the finale. We're going to be talking about the whole series in general, so make sure you come back for that next week. It's, by the way, Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day. I don't know if any mothers are watching this, but happy Mother's Day to you if you are. I hope you said happy Mother's Day to your mothers if you had the chance today. That's why, one of the main reasons why I wasn't able to see Porter today, because I had to hang out with the family and my mother and myself. Somebody tossed that damn throne out the street. Yeah, I could see that happening. Daenerys has gone freaking nuts. She's gone full, earlier they said turned into Cersei. Kind of, but I think she's gone way past that. She's Mad Queen level, Mad King level of stuff. She kind of taken in her name and become her father, sort of. Maybe in a more relatable way because she's not just crazy. She's more relatable in terms of her motivations for wanting to do this, but in terms of taking those 100 steps too far, it's like, no, you got to knock this off, please. So she's definitely taken up the Targaryen name and really lived up to her father's legacy, that's for sure, at this point anyway. Game of Thrones has a problem with... now Game of Thrones has a problem with incest. Well, it's always had an incest problem, of course. I think you're referencing Jon and Dany's scene there earlier. Hot damn, this is a good episode. Cole Got Voices says, I agree with you in terms of the technical stuff and in terms of a lot of the scenes and character moments. stuff I've never seen even before, I think was in this episode. I love the perspective of all the things that are happening to the people on the ground. I thought that was really smart and really well done. And they mentioned that in the behind the episode, that after the episode aired, they talked about wanting to see that perspective, and I thought they accomplished that really well. So everybody is dead. Well, no, Arya's not dead. A lot of the good guys are alive. That was their point, was to gray that black and white line to who's the good guy and who's the bad guy now. And they've done it. I had a theory that, of course, didn't work, that Tyrion was actually a secret Stark. Never heard that one before, but that's an interesting notion to make. This episode was garbage. The writers burned down all past seasons just as fast as Dany did to King's Landing. D Martini 1487 says, well, I don't know. I got to think more about it. I don't think that it's quite as bad as everyone's making it out to be, but yeah, the more it's gone along, the more I've been like, I'm not quite as on board as I was at the beginning of the season, but I got to gather my thoughts more to really have a full opinion on that. Carl Maxey, I've seen a lot of movies with modern and ancient wars, but this was kind of made my stomach turn. Yeah, they did their job really well. I'm sad Jaime is dead. I'm also sad Jaime is dead, Tevya. My heart died when the Hound passed. Yep, but he went out the way I think he should have went out. They kill off my favorite character, and I'm sad. Connor, I'm assuming that's the Hound, but I agree with you there. I'm sad that the Hound is dead. We're all sad about the Hound. Hey, Lord Jason. If everyone's been calling me Lord Jason, I've seen a few of those because of the me sitting on the Iron Throne with the red Power Ranger helmet. Hello, Lord Jason here. Yes. Question: did Cersei win? No. Obviously, she was crying at the end and telling Jaime how she didn't want to die. So I don't think she won. My soul feels sick. My soul also feels sick. But is this the most brutal episode of Game of Thrones that's ever been? Probably. The only one that I could think of that was this brutal in terms of really had an impact on me and made me sad was when Shireen died in season 5. That really got to me. I almost gave up watching the show at that point because just every episode was a kick in the nuts. I've talked about this before. But this was much more death, a lot more crazy stuff happening, but it felt more appropriate because it's the ending of the series. This was more human casualties, absolutely. Jon should just sex with Dany. It would have been saved a lot of lives. You're right, it would have, but Jon can't do it because of his pride, or not pride, his honor getting in the way. What are your theories on what will happen next episode? I think I've explained that. I think that Arya is going to kill Dany. Jon's going to take the Iron Throne, or they're just going to leave it where, like, we're going to have a shot ending on the Iron Throne, just burned, and we don't know what's going to happen. She said she wanted to break the wheel, didn't she? Well, she sure as hell broke the wheel. She burned the whole city down. Even when Robert in Robert's Rebellion took over King's Landing, he didn't burn the entire place. Well, he didn't have the capability to do that, but he didn't tear the entire structure of King's Landing down, the castle and all that. So, oh boy. I don't know what's going to... I think that they might just end it on no one ruling or something like that. Or Arya's going to kill Dany and Jon, or Jon's going to be a reluctant leader, or Sansa's going to take over. There's a lot of different angles they can go with it. If I had to guess, I'd say Arya's going to kill Dany, Jon's going to be left holding the pieces, and he's going to have to rule, basically. That's what I think is most likely to happen, but also there's a lot of different avenues they could take this. What an episode, I agree. She went nuts. She's madder than her father. She's gone mad like her father. A lot of people calling comparisons to the Mad King. Everyone was done well, but the writers threw out their own narrative. 8 seasons of setup so they can cash in and check and phone in. I don't think you can call this phoned in. I disagree with that. Last and First Man. They completely destroyed the redemption arc they built with Jaime. Yes, but I think it was also always going to end with Jaime and Cersei, so... I agree that the stuff with Brienne, the last episode, was terrible, kind of, in some aspects. I just don't think they should have hooked up at all. That was the main thing that I had a problem with. But I think we all kind of knew that Cersei and Jaime were going to die together in some form, or he was going to kill her or something. I'm happy Jaime Lannister and Cersei kind of had a happy ending. I don't think that's a happy ending, Tevye. All the fake out with Arya was annoying. Plot armor much? Plot armor because she's one of the main characters, but I disagree with that. I think that she... we needed a character to survive, to go through all that, to follow someone, and she was the perfect one to go through that. And she didn't go through that unscathed. I mean, she's got a lot of injuries to deal with, and Against all odds, she survived, and I think we had to see someone kind of survive in this episode, so why not Arya? I always thought she was going to be there at the end, so that kind of makes sense to me. Euron, fish and chip sailor, kills the best, one of the best swordsmen ever, kills the second last dragon. Well, Euron he didn't exactly kill Jaime, like I said earlier, probably would have died anyway, but Jaime was fighting with his left hand, man. If it was his right hand, of course, Jaime would have took him out really easily, but that's not what happened. Dining each other's arm. Creed 2 reference, you mean? Nope. Nope. Death from Above was Rocky 4. That was Ivan Drago. Oh, he's been renamed Death from Above. Fan ain't Ryan. Maybe they called Ivan's kid Death from Above in Creed 2. I'm not sure, but that was from Rocky 4. At last, Euron is dead. Yes. Genuinely thought the mountain was going to Frankenstein hug his brother. Yeah, maybe. The mountain wouldn't die. That was some great stuff there. Let's all celebrate their beautiful incestuous relationship and forget all the narrative setup that was supposed to kill her. Took the hound basically to burn his own brother. The mountain looked like Frankenstein monster. He did. I'm going to try. There's a lot more comments than I thought here, so I'm going to get to the ones I haven't really answered yet. The whole season has been a middle finger to the books and the fans. They're doing their best, I think. Without George R. Martin's guidance, it's definitely kind of gone off in a couple different ways. But even up through season 7, which a lot of people didn't like, I've defended the show. I liked where it was going. This season didn't really go a way that I was expecting, and I think a lot of people share your disappointment there. So you're not wrong. It's your opinion. I think they did their best. I don't think it was an intentional middle finger to the books or the fans or anything like that. The Golden Company, who has been set as never breaking a contract ever since season 1, all die instantly and don't have a chance to break contract. What a waste of time. The Golden Company kind of was built up just to have a fake out of like, oh, maybe Cersei, just like the Scorpion machines, the spears and everything, just to give Cersei, oh, maybe she'll come back from this, maybe she'll have a chance. Nope, they end up just dying by Dragonfire very easily. Trying to skip through a couple other things. The premonition became true. Possibly we'll see what happens in the next episode, but that snow raining down in the premonition from the second season with Dany was definitely Ash. I think we can all agree with that. Can't be saved. She better not kill. A lot of people don't want Arya to kill Jon, but I think it's a real possibility, man. I think it's a real possibility. It's going to be like Jon accepting that and Arya crying through all of it, but I think it's a real possibility that happens. I don't think it's going to happen if I had to guess, but I think it's a real possibility. Thanks for the Nostalgia Critic review for Toonami. Thanks for watching that. Comments about that. Series finale is going to start next week. I'm getting to the end of the comments here. Red Wedding used to be brutal, this episode of the show. Most be the most brutal episode of the show. I forgot about the Red Wedding. How could I forget? I'm dumb. But now this episode just beat it. I think you're right about that. We saw so much destruction. It was insane. Arya will kill Dany. Jon takes over temporarily. The show is so predictable. God, they ruined it. JZ31519 says, I hope Jon is going to have to rule. I think that's the most likely outcome, is he's going to reluctantly have to take over here. Birdie, nobody is going to take the Iron Throne. That's what I suggested also. It's just going to be left on kind of this, not a cliffhanger, but an unresolved sort of ambiguous ending about what's going to happen. And just everybody's dead. That's the nature of human beings, I guess, which I don't really agree with, but I mean, that's what they've kind of been building up. Valor Morghulis, whatever, the all men must die. That's kind of what they've been saying this entire time, haven't they? Bran, they're going to make it Bran. There's these betting sites out there that are saying Bran is going to take the Iron Throne. He's like the top guy right now to take the Iron Throne, which is kind of shocking to me. I don't think that's going to happen, but he knows everything, so he kind of probably would make a good ruler, right? We'll see what happens there. I don't know if Bran's even going to show up again. There's only one episode left, so we'll see. I doubt Arya will kill Jon, but at least if we don't get a battle with Arya and Dany, I'll just be ugh. Well, Dany can't fight off the dragon, so Arya, maybe she'll have to climb up Drogon to slit her throat or something. Maybe that's something that will happen, which will be interesting. Golden Company realized they were screwed. Yep. Carl Maxey's so glad she didn't get those elephants. They would have been useless. We would have just saw elephants on fire. That's for sure. Bran traveling through time I'm sorry, I'm messing up. the comments here. Bran traveling through time is the only way to deliver the mine F. The season needs to redeem itself. Maybe something like that will happen with Bran. We'll see. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. AD 57.6, you are absolutely right. Good call there from the quote from The Dark Knight. Dany did it because she feels she needs to rule with fear, not because of anger. Well, she was obviously very upset about to, when the bells were ringing and everything. That was the moment where she was either going to, go with the plan that she established with Tyrion. She let her emotions get the best of her. I mean, she said earlier that she would rule through fear, but she didn't say she was going to burn everybody alive. And that was all her emotions coming out. And they said in the after the episode thing that she just sees King's Landing and everything that has been building throughout those 8 seasons, about everything that was taken from her and her family, all that she's been through personally, just built up there at that moment, especially in the last couple episodes, and she just freaking lost it. I don't think that was like 100% a premeditated thing. I think that was kind of a mix of her saying she wants to rule through fear and just her emotions getting the best of her and just losing her freaking mind. George R. Martin even said, twist for the sake of twist in spite of narrative just makes your narrative worthless. 100% agree with that. You should never put, it comes back to the argument about usurping expectations or whatever the saying is on that. Not going with something people expected just because people are expecting it is never really a good idea. I mean, predictability can be a good thing, but you have to throw enough things that people aren't seeing coming to really get something that's memorable to people, I think. When you should deliver on what people want to see most of the time. This is just coming from, I've taken a lot of screenwriting classes and stuff like that, and that's what a lot of my professors and all that stuff would always say, is that you want to give them what they want, but also give them what they don't think they know they want, and also just throwing things that they're not expecting in there. But you have to deliver on some end of that thing. So, doing things, going against the grain just to go against the grain in a narrative storytelling format is almost never a good idea. So I agree with you there. You hit the nail on the head. And that was from Last and First Man. Carl Maxey, would it be messed up if the episode ends like the show Lost and everyone is in purgatory? I'm expecting someone just to wake up, like George R. Martin's going to wake up and it's just going to be all in his head or something. Time travel would be confusing. It might be. Walter, remember what Alfred said. Some men aren't in it for the money. Carl Max, I know where you're going with this. They can't be bought, bullied, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn. That's Dany. You're absolutely right. I'll read that whole thing in the Alfred voice. Let's get into it. Some men aren't looking for anything logical. They can't be bought, bullied, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn. Yep, Dracarys. Wait, I'll say Dracarys in the Michael Caine voice. Dracarys. Not quite as intimidating, I don't think. Dany was more anger and rage. I agree with that. Give them what they don't think they want, like Batman vs. Superman. Not the best example there, Carl. Ralph, WTF is this season? A lot of unexpected things happen. You're right, Ralph. A lot of people don't like it. How am I supposed to enjoy old episodes of Dany now, knowing what she does in the final season? Absolutely. But also, you can look at those episodes and those big moments from her, a lot of the positive moments that happen with her, from a different perspective, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because we saw them from this rising heroic arc the entire time. We thought we knew where it was going, but now you can go back and see, oh, this moment actually meant more because of where she ends up. This moment really affected her more, and you can kind of see that. So on the rewatch of some of Dany's moments, it won't be as satisfying, to know where she ends up, but you can kind of pick things out, and that might be more fun to pick the negative things out that happened to her and how that affected her and everything. And maybe you could read more into her reactions on certain things. So that might be an interesting way to rewatch the show from Dany's perspective. See you later, Tevye. Thanks for watching. Someone explain to me how Arya survived half of that. Well, she is one of the main characters, and we needed someone to survive. I'm completely fine with her surviving. Her cousin, Tony Stark, went back in time and let her borrow the Infinity Stones. That's a good call there, Jay-Z. What would Aquaman say if he sees Dany now? I don't know what he'd do. He'd probably be proud of her. I don't know. Last and First Man says, bad writing. Van A. Ryan also, as an amateur screenwriter, I agree, but annoying character cliches, even if pulling for an outcome that will please or anger audiences, don't pull the dumb of your sleeve just to get there. Yes, I agree. Like I said, you shouldn't get to somewhere that you want to go or upend things just to do it. It should never be just for the sake of doing it. You should have an idea of where you're going with this. That being said, as long as they don't pull a Sopranos and just quit Fade to Black, if so, screw it all. I hope that doesn't happen, but we'll see. We've been going for about 45 minutes here. If you guys have any other questions about my thoughts on Game of Thrones, go ahead and leave them in the comments here. We got about 29 people watching right now. Again, I'll be back with Porter next week to review the final episode of Game of Thrones. Until they bring it back with the prequel show and, whatever they're going to do with that coming up soon. See you later, Connor. Thanks for watching. The North will not remember this. I don't know. The North always remembers, so we'll see what happens. See you later. See you later, Van. Qyburn went out suddenly. I seriously thought he was going to make it to the end. No, Qyburn died from the mountain right there from his own creation. I think that looks like that's going to be it for the stream today. I'm not getting too many other questions, so thank you guys for watching. I'll be back next week, like I said, with Porter to watch the last one. I wrote a couple new episodes of, well, not episodes, but a couple new videos that are going to be coming up this next week. One is going to be, finally, Hey Arnold versus Dexter's Laboratory, so keep an eye out for that. And also, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite WWE wrestlers. We're going to be talking some more wrestling stuff on the channel, so make sure you guys keep an eye out for that stuff. It should be fun. Also, in a couple weeks, I'll be making a major announcement. It will be on a live stream like this one. And also, leave suggestions about what you guys want to see covered on the channel. And if you guys want to see like some kind of Q&A live stream, a lot of people do that. Let me know. That would be fun to talk to you guys in a more direct fashion in terms of what's going on with me or whatever stuff you guys want to see. So thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. I'll be back next week with Porter.